2 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
You're very welcome along. So breaking news this evening, as you heard there in the news headlines, the Department of Health will be recommending to the IRFU that Ireland-Italy does not go ahead in 2 weeks' time. Simon Harris has been speaking in the last hour or so. It is considered a high-risk event, naturally enough. Maybe 5,000 Italian fans estimated to be intending to travel, so it's off, really. The IRFU can't really turn around and ignore that recommendation. We'll talk to Peter O'Reilly of the Sunday Times. We'll bring you Simon Harris's comments in just a moment. Also, Champions League this evening. We have Chelsea against Bayern at Stamford Bridge. Damien Delaney is in studio. And David Brady also in studio between 8 and 9. He is featured on the new series of Lake Regale. Sort of like the de facto Hall of Fame, really. So David Brady gets in, and we're going to chat to him between 8 and 9 about his life and times. Lots of interesting things to talk to him about. 53106 is the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack also here. Hello.
Hey, Joe.
Damien Delaney, how are you?
Joe, how are you?
It's good to have you in. We will talk Champions League in just a moment. But first, Richie McCormack.
Yeah.
Simon Harris speaking in the last hour or so.
Yeah, last half an hour even. The Department of Health have recommended that the Six Nations meeting of Ireland and Italy set for the Aviva on March 7th be postponed. It comes with fears over the spread of the coronavirus. The IRFU are to be contacted over the matter. There's no comment just yet from Irish Rugby's governing body. Earlier today, Six Nations organisers said they were loosely monitoring Italy's coronavirus outbreak following concerns over how it may affect the tournament. Italy are due to face England in Rome the week after their trip to Dublin. As I say, Health Minister Simon Harris spoke in the last half hour.
We'll be publishing guidelines in relation to mass gatherings shortly, but we've obviously taken a decision in relation to the Ireland-Italy rugby game, which was due to be held in Dublin on, I think, the 7th of March. The very clear view of the Public Health Emergency Team was that this game should not go ahead, that it would constitute a significant risk because a very large number of people would be travelling from what is now an affected region. So my department will be contacting the IRFU in relation to this. I know it'll cause a great disappointment to many, but it is important we make decisions in relation to public health above and beyond all other considerations. In regard to other events, we'll be publishing guidelines which can assess the risk of those events, and we'll be liaising with organisers of that as this situation continues to evolve.
In his statement, Simon Harris made the point there that they will be contacting the IRFU in relation to this matter, so I suspect the IRFU are digesting this news as well at the moment. We've been on to them looking for a comment. If there's any news, then we'll bring it straight to you. Like I said, I presume it's very difficult for anybody in the IRFU or the Six Nations to turn around and say, yeah, we're going to go ahead with it though. We just think, it'll be fine. So I would think that is the game off. There's no way they can't go against that advice.
Could you not just, just ask the Italian fans not to travel?
You could. Would
that not be less drastic?
Yeah.
Is that a possibility?
I don't know to what extent that is possible.
Because what's the recommend? Because obviously Italy, if the fans don't travel, the squads do. So we're now looking at a situation whereby there is a travel ban on people from Italy specifically going, not just to here, but other places dotted around Europe and beyond.
Flights are still going in and out. You've got 5,000 Italian fans expected to travel, so presumably they've already booked their flights and their accommodation.
Would it not be cheaper to reimburse them than to cancel? I don't know, man. Maybe they know stuff that we don't.
Yeah, maybe. Look, I would think it's perfectly easy to test the team and anyone travelling over. They get the all clear on the Wednesday or Thursday and they travel, play the match. No Italian fans come. Maybe they might strike up that compromise off the top of my head. I don't know how feasible that is.
I'm pretty sure that somebody has asked that question, though. It seems like a fairly obvious solution, but who knows, man.
There is precedent, obviously, the foot and mouth back in 2001 when the games were rescheduled for September. So it has happened. It's a bit of a nuisance. Can they not just give us the 5 points? Let's just be obvious here. We know what's going to happen.
Really?
Give or take.
Really?
We'll settle on 4.5 points. How about that? 4.5 points. So if we have any news across the evening, we'll bring it straight to you. Peter O'Reilly of the Sunday Times will join us at 7:30. Again, I'm not too sure if any. We're all digesting the news as it happens. I would think England in Rome on the final day has to be in massive jeopardy as well.
Yeah, that's definitely one that'll be called off.
Unless you try and advise English fans not to travel, which is the reverse of what you're saying about stopping Italian fans travel. But
isn't the big games then go ahead? Because we could be in a situation where England are still vying for a championship.
And Ireland.
And Ireland, well, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it leaves Ireland in a strange position now where they go to Paris.
And there's still another result still in hand. Yeah.
Imagine they go to Paris, beat France, and then the countdown is on to Ireland, Italy in Dublin in September.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Irish rugby team, Joe. I don't think they deal with lead-ins and pressure all that well.
Wow.
It could well be, working to their detriment.
I mean, the really interesting question now is where else all of this goes, You
don't want to speculate, especially where something like this is regarded. You have to figure that the Department of Health is working on information that this could and maybe get worse before it gets better. And that's why they've taken this step to contain whatever they can or contain its impact.
Champions League will be affected, almost certainly.
Yeah. Was there a Serie A game called off last night?
There's 5 Serie A games this coming weekend are called off. Inter and Ludogorets in the Europa League on Thursday is going to be played behind closed doors. And there's the prospect, obviously, for further games going forward to be behind closed doors.
The latest dispatches from the HSE that I've heard, certainly in the last 24, 48 hours, anyone speaking on the radio or whatever, have been that there will be cases in Ireland. But the hope is they will be isolated, well contained, quarantined, treated, and hopefully it won't reach the general population. I suppose if you're in charge of things like Cheltenham now, you're really on your toes. You're waiting for your turn.
I mean,
you're checking the news every morning.
You're probably putting a plan in place already. Like,
who knows?
Just so you're not caught.
Yeah, who knows? So this is going to wreak havoc, I would think, on a European level. That's for sure. It already is. Like, Six Nations game's a huge deal. There have been 200 people diagnosed so far in Italy across several different regions. 90 cases tested in Ireland, but they've all come back negative thus far. Whatever about the game, you can't have 5,000 Italians rocking up to Dublin for a weekend. It's perfectly understandable.
Yeah, I definitely get that.
Yeah. So there we are. That's
chipper news to start off with.
That's disappointing.
Shall we continue on with the bad news, Joe?
Okay.
Yeah. IOC board member and the longest serving on the board, Dick Pound, says this summer's Olympics are more likely to be cancelled than postponed or moved should they prove too dangerous to stage due to the coronavirus. Pound has told the Associated Press that the IOC has a 2 or 3 month window to decide whether the virus outbreak is under sufficient control. However, he added that all indications at this stage are that it will be business as usual for Tokyo 2020. As mentioned there, Italian football authorities announced that 5 of this weekend's Serie A games will be played behind closed doors because of the coronavirus. They include Juventus' home game with Inter and AC Milan's match against Genoa. Inter's Europa League last 32 home tie against Ludogorets on Thursday is going to be played behind closed doors at the San Siro because of fears of a possible spread of the virus.
Me and 5 friends spent €250 per ticket for Juve Inter this weekend. Games now to be played behind closed doors. Juve will not refund, is the word back from Juve.
Yeah, a good friend of mine who was going on a jolly over to Bologna as part of work, and that's off. So
Simon Harris, by the way, didn't specifically mention the under-20s or the women's internationals. I presume they must be in major jeopardy as well. Again, once the IRFU make any statement whatsoever, we'll bring it to you. You would think they'll react this evening. Who knows, though? Where else are we going, Rich?
We will go to more bad news. Cian Healy's been ruled out of Ireland's final 2 games of the Six Nations, wherever they might fall, actually.
Final one game,
yeah. The Leinster prop suffered a hip injury in Sunday's defeat to England at Twickenham. Meanwhile, experienced prop Lindsay Peat will miss the remainder of Ireland's women's Six Nations with an ankle injury. She was stretchered off in their 27-0 loss at Castle Park at the weekend. And Joey Carberry is in danger of sitting out the rest of the season. The Munster out half has undergone further surgery on his injured ankle following advice he received from a specialist last week. Carberry initially sustained the injury during Ireland's World Cup warm-up win over Italy back in August. The 24-year-old was expected to be out until April anyway with a wrist tendon injury. Sticking with Munster, Chris Farrell and Jack O'Donoghue have both been released from international duty for the province's Pro 14 meeting with Scarlets on Sunday. Niall Scannell and Shane Daly are both having scans on respective leg and hip problems following last Friday's win over Zebre.
I knew this was going to happen. I mean, obviously I didn't know, but I knew. Joey Carberry. So, Damien, Joey Carberry hurt his ankle before the Rugby World Cup in one of the warm-up games. They rushed him right back. He was never quite right, and now he has to go for surgery again in his ankle. I'm somebody who had just an ankle that kept for years. I knew that was such a risk.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever had that, but that's
I've had pretty much every ankle injury you could possibly have twice.
You've got to be so careful rushing them back. And they did rush him back for the World Cup. They admitted it was a gamble. I'm really not surprised to see now that he needs surgery on it and further treatment on it.
I think we need a light story, like a happy...
It is the worst news round you've ever brought us.
It is, yeah.
You're a disgrace.
I don't make the news, Joe. I just regurgitate it in a rather measured style.
And I was in a bad mood coming in here.
I got
in a bad mood. You had Dee Brady in.
Oh, no, Dee Brady is excellent between 8 and 9. I'll tell you what put me in a bad mood.
He couldn't pronounce Laker Gale.
Ego. My own ego put me in a bad mood.
Your own ego puts me in a bad mood sometimes too, Joe.
Accepted.
Dee
Delaney walks in.
Is this my story?
Dee Delaney walks in, as usual, like he's the main man, like the
No, not at all. Not at all.
How are you going?
How you lads? How you? Makes an argument that the coronavirus gives us a few conspiracy theories on that.
Yeah.
Not going to allow
Don't
them
repeat them on air.
No, yeah. But some of the conspiracy theories about coronavirus, he throws them out, and then he turns to me and says, "I was watching the rugby at the weekend." I sit up a bit straighter. Compliment incoming.
Here we go.
Let me have it. Wait. What was your favourite part? I'm thinking. He says, so watch the start, watch the half-time, watch a good bit of the post-match. And my wife turns to me and says, hang on, is that the man you do the off-the-ball show with? And he looks a bit closer and says, is it?
That's a true story.
No.
I watched those. Honestly, I did. He didn't have his glasses on. He didn't have
come on. Would you not recognise? Would you not? If Clark Kent strolled in, would
you
you
know
not
what, man?
know?
It was just one of those things. Like, do you know what? It's a good. Do you know what? That in a roundabout. In a roundabout.
We're joking.
In a roundabout.
Am I throwing you here by taking them on and off?
It's a compliment, right? Because you always listen. I'll explain to you, right? You always want the host of the show to be invisible. Ask the question, and then the host of the star. You know, so you just ask the questions and let them go with it. And my own fella was running around and I was playing with him, and I was.
Now. And you're explaining now.
And do you know how much my missus even said to me? She goes, "Is that the fella do off the ball with?" And I goes, "Hang on, is it?" And I kind of looked at her, telling her, "Oh, it is, yeah." She goes, "Oh, yeah, I knew his voice." And I thought, you recognise his voice?
Do you even know my name? Don't answer that.
I did text you last week, you never text me back.
That is true. So now we're even.
Now we're getting to the hard
Now we're moving. Now we're moving. Okay, anyway. Yeah, well, so whatever is what I have to say.
No. Listen, it's a compliment. You know, I was just trying to figure out Ron O'Gara, listening to him talking about rugby. I was focused on him, really.
Listen, drive buses through those gaps, couldn't you?
His long pauses, I was thinking, where's he going with this?
Mary Hannigan, who writes the TV review in the Irish Times, timed one of his pauses in her piece.
Oh, Jesus, how long is it?
5.49 seconds.
Which it seemed like about 3 hours in studio.
Why was he so hesitant? Because the first thing I noticed, it was like was he overthinking it?
Yes, he's a man who has, in a good way, is a deep.
Is it because
thinker.
he didn't want to criticise anyone?
No, I don't think so. Like at half time, he called the performance dire.
Yeah.
So he was certainly not saying this is good. I asked him, where do you start with that review of that game? You know, and he was like,
that was long.
A long pause. And almost said, I don't know where to start with that, as in it was so bad. So, 5.49 seconds when you're on air. Oh my God.
But that's what I was, because as soon as that came on, I was listening to him and I was going, what's he going to say? He's doing something really dramatic here and like kill someone and call it what it is, or he's just, I don't know, not really sure of what he's saying, or I couldn't figure it out. That's what I was wondering. That's why you slid on by, you know?
Oh, sure. I think he has that, he does that thing that some people get away with on TV, which is interesting. They think in real time. That's my sense of it.
Like you can see his...
Correct, yeah. And some people on TV are very interesting to watch think in the moment. He could just spit something out and say, yeah, it was very bad, disappointing day. But actually he was like, what do I...
But in fairness, he did watch the half, and then like he had a little bit of time to consider. Like he must have known what was coming.
He must have known we were going to talk about the game.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I didn't hear him. What about the coronavirus?
Yeah, exactly. He must have known. And he's first one on the panel. The first question is going to be, "What do you make of that?"
I'm his biggest fan. It was.
Listen, I don't know. So it's the first time I've ever really seen him on the TV. So
listen, you're.
I didn't know you worked for Virgin, though.
Your level of attention that you were paying.
Stop. I didn't know you did that stuff. That's the first time I've seen you on TV.
Do you want to just...
I just thought you were like...
Just shut up. Just stop talking.
Oh
my God.
Do you do a lot for Virgin?
The rugby.
Oh, the rugby. See, I don't watch rugby, so I don't... That's why I would never have seen you. Like,
that's fair enough. Did you watch the game?
I did.
They got smashed. Is that your kind of footballer version of that they just got smashed?
Time me there, I'll give you 5.4 seconds.
Yeah.
No, I just watched it because I was at home and I stuck it on, and I couldn't, like, your man's 2 kicks was just...
Sexton.
Oh my God.
I know.
Like, they were like proper shanks, like...
proper hook.
Unbelievable. Like, I mean, they weren't even close.
No.
And then I just think that there was just a couple of, like, they didn't start very well. They didn't look very lively for a team. They didn't look very tuned in.
No.
So you don't know what kind of wing, because when teams start games like that, I know I would never criticise anybody because I don't know them, and I know the job they do is tough, like, but you'd wonder what preparation was like in the week.
That's really interesting, because...
How dialed in were they?
Because in Dublin, in the corresponding fixture last year, the first 10 minutes were a carbon copy, which was just England on them. So they must this week. If you had played a team the year before and they had
you would
killed
like,
you in the first 10 minutes, you must a year on be saying, right, we got to start well here.
You'd be in the tunnel walking on hot coals, thinking, oh my God, the train's coming here. We have to
be ready.
Oh my God, like.
And yet, look what happened.
And it was just, it just looked like they were all very relaxed, chilled out. They want to build their way into it. But again, that's just an outside opinion looking in. Like,
but I always reckon
when teams start like that, you always kind of think, what week did they have? Was a laid back
week. They had Bono in. Did you see that?
That's why I'm trending. Yeah, I didn't.
Bono was in. So they had a good week, fun week, but it wasn't a.
It looks like they had a
backs against the wall week. I don't think.
Well, I think they should have a backs to the wall. I mean, they should be really drilled down and say, listen, wrecking ball's coming on Saturday.
Yeah, that's interesting, because Andy Farrell, the coach, did afterwards say maybe we have to look at the prep.
100% so it was. You don't start a game like that if you've had a diligent week training, like, unless you've been overworked in the week and you can't get going. But they looked relatively fresh. They just didn't look very focused.
They would have been fresh. They had a gap week.
Okay, so they just weren't focused, it looked like. But again,
that's
just an opinion.
That's interesting. No, fair enough. Lads, enough of this rugby nonsense. Isn't there some football this evening, says Joe in Wicklow? There is.
Indeed there is. There's a repeat of the 2012 final in the Champions League last 16. Tonight, Chelsea welcoming Bayern Munich to Stamford Bridge for the first leg of their knockout tie. Willie Caballero continues in the Chelsea goal. They've got a back four: Cesar Azpilicueta, Andreas Christensen, Antonio Rudiger and Reece James. Across the midfield, it's Jorginho, Mateo Kovacic and Marcus Alonso. Ross Barkley then and Mason Mount are in support of Olivier Giroud, who continues up front. For Bayern, Manuel Neuer starts in goal. Benjamin Pavard, Jerome Boateng, David Alaba and Alphonso Davies are their back four. Thiago Alcantara and Joshua Kimmich are in midfield. In front of them, the trio of Serge Gnabry, Thomas Müller and Kingsley Coman, all behind Robert Lewandowski. While Napoli legend Marek Hamsik says it will be a miracle if his former side knock Barcelona out of the competition. They meet at the San Paolo tonight for their first leg of their last 16 tie, and both games kick off at 8 o'clock.
This came in a few minutes ago, so it is, but it's somebody saying, lads, lighten up. Any more about Richie's cat's flip-flops? That's a Mike cat joke. Regular listeners, that one's for you.
I think we lightened the mood there with the whole...
The fact that you say each other.
I didn't know that Joe worked for Virgin.
He's snubbing me. You literally, like...
I got a lot of love for you, Joe, in fairness. Like, I don't know, man.
Delaney's
I didn't
TV
expect
snub.
to see there, that was all,
Massive snub. Do you know, I got this did not come as a surprise to me that footballers are childish, but in the build-up to this Chelsea-Bayern game, Sky Sports News have been showing the same Lewandowski clip from training again and again and again. So they're in like a little circle, a few of them, and Lewandowski has clearly lost whatever game they're playing or whatever thing it is, and he kind of goes, shucks, okay. And so the other lads queue up to flick his ear. They get a free flick at his ear.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And a part of me looked at it and said, it's just so childish. And the other part of me was like, oh God, I'd love to be a footballer so much.
Yeah. You play them games a quick one. Just before.
Which would you rather, repeated flicks of the ear or a series of deadeners from your teammates in the arm?
Oof, flicks to the ear, I think. Although one of them, a few of them did it, ha ha ha, and then one lad really.
Someone's going to go for it, like. After a few deadeners, you don't feel it anymore.
Yeah,
just fellas come in the next day, they'll have a little bit of bruising in the ear.
It's just so childish.
Yeah,
like,
just
Lewandowski's
you play the letters flick, so every time you drop it, you get F, L, the first one to get the whole thing gets a flick.
Yeah,
we've played it before, like we've played like cat and dog, so like you have to get 3 lives, but if you lose it, you got to go on the floor in the middle of the circle and act like a dog for 10 seconds. So you got to go around all fours going woof woof.
Is it any wonder so many of you struggle in the real world?
That's all pre-training, and then the gaffer comes out and you get going, But
yeah, well, Lewandowski's on fire at the moment. We'll preview that game before 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, Mick McCarthy.
Yeah, he's issued his usual scouting report on the FAI's website, and he's played down fears over the fitness of Enda Stevens ahead of next month's Euro 2020 playoff with Slovakia. The Sheffield United full-back was taken off with a calf injury after scoring a wonder goal in their 1-1 draw with Brighton. McCarthy says the substitution was more precautionary than anything, and his United manager Chris Wilder hopes to have Stevens back by Saturday week. James McLean, meanwhile, hopes to be back in time for that game in Bratislava. The Stoke winger is in Dubai for special specialist rehab work after sustaining a medial knee ligament injury in his club's recent game with West Brom. McLean says he was told he'd be out for 6 weeks, but he hopes to return in 3 or 4.
Joe, any team that thinks it's appropriate to bring Bono in deserves everything they get. Why Sexton thought it was also a good idea casts doubt on his thinking. Charles in Dublin 12. I think that's unfair, genuinely. It's a long week, they're in camp a long time. Bono in for 2 hours of an evening to chat to them, and I think he talked about things like dealing with striving for greatness and tried to come up with things which would be applicable to them. Like the alternative is they're sitting in their room getting anxious about a game. I think that's scoreboard.
They Bono in for a couple of hours, as much of a laughing joke as we have about it. They have Paul O'Connell in for the week. Yeah, and that's the more serious and more the thing we should take more note of, you know?
Yeah. I just think that's one of the things that gets thrown at a team when they lose. Everything you do is wrong when you lose. Everything you do is right when you win. It was an interesting point you made about the first 10 minutes, and that's a mental thing more than anything. Very hard to argue with that. I just don't know. As much as Richie, and we learnt this last week, wants to blame Bono, I don't know if we can blame Bono.
Oh, yeah.
I never said blame Bono.
Well,
I just scoffed at Bono.
You have it in for Bono.
The theory of Bono.
Like, listen, it's a lot of teams do things like this, right? It all massively hinges on like the dynamic of the group. Is it something they want to do? Is it something they enjoy doing? Because I've been in teams before where you've been forced to do things and the group just aren't into it because the players aren't. So if someone brought in Bono and people were like, I would rather be in my room thinking about the game. I would much rather, be watching clips. I would much rather have treatment. There's a million things I'd do now rather than listen to Bono because he's a singer and he's nothing to do with rugby and he's just great, man. After the game, come in the change room and sing a song for us, that's brilliant. Sometimes stuff like that can break focus, but I would never judge that unless you understand the dynamic of the group, unless they all really wanted him to come in. I think it would have been better or more real if you brought in, that show you put me in touch with before, someone that's got an interesting story, that
Tommy
Tiernan show that you so you bring in that James Leonard guy or someone like that, you know what I mean? Because that's interesting. I'm not saying Bono's not interesting, but what's he going to say? Just sit there and...
Well, he apparently, Johnny Sexton was talking afterwards. He said he took a lot from it because Bono talked about, the pressure to perform again and again over years and years, consistency, always striving for a great performance, never feeling like you've done your best performance. That is applicable to a sports person.
It is, but a song's a song. Now, you want to deliver it. You know what I mean? If he had to make up a song on the fly on the stage, which is essentially what's happening in a rugby game, I'd have a lot more, Yeah, you can understand when he's giving it some and he's not giving it some, he sings.
Well, in terms of
singing for 30 years.
In terms of how the team felt about it, they were all really into it. But maybe it breaks focus.
I think it does. I think the celebrities and stuff like that, after games or after tournament, bring him in, no problem. Or do you know what? If we're going on a night out, we'll bring him in, bring a guitar from him, we'll all have a laugh. That's great, Bono.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That's how I would see it. And that Ireland group looked like a motivated group. They look like they got some serious characters in there that are like seriously focused people.
Win competitions, win trophies. That group.
And I can only imagine sitting there listening to him. They'd all be going, "This is wrecking my head. I would rather sit in a room with my own."
Yeah, maybe. I didn't get that sense, to be honest. But they mightn't necessarily say that in public. To be fair. Yeah. Crazy stuff from Damien there. Next thing he's going to say that he didn't know Richie is the voice of Power City.
I don't even know what Power City is.
You've been out of this country for too long.
You know what Power City? It's a shop. Power City.
Did they have them in Cork?
Oh, I'd say so. Is Power City a nationwide thing?
What do they
sell?
Could be,
yeah. This week at Power City. That kind of...
What do they sell?
Electrical goods.
They don't have them in Cork.
Stuff that's powered.
They don't have electrical goods in Cork?
No, they don't have a
Power City.
Power City.
Dear. Did you not recognise the ad there? Someone
out there will know what they're at. They don't have them in Cork. I've never seen them in Cork, to be honest with you.
Okay. Dame Delaney has never seen Power City in Cork. 53106.
And first and foremost, what when you see the voiceover, what does he do?
Close your eyes. Hang on, close your eyes for a second.
Go on.
This week at Power City, see the brand new range of Damien Delaney fridge freezers. That kind of thing.
That doesn't sound like you at all, though.
That's the point.
That's the ideal. That was for free, by the way.
Can we actually... We got to go.
That'll cost you next time.
We got to go. Sorry, they have done way too well out of this. We should be charging them for this.
I'm invoicing you for this.
Can you quickly give us the Tim O'Leary story? Because people will be interested.
Mayo GEA announced last night that they're ceasing all contact with millionaire benefactor Tim O'Leary after a series of tweets he posted on Sunday calling for senior football manager James Horan to be sacked O'Leary, who finances the Mayo Supporters Federation, took to Twitter on Sunday to call for the end of Horan's management reign in light of Mayo's league defeat to Monaghan in Clonus. While the tweets were later deleted and an apology posted on Monday, this was the latest incident in a long disintegration of relations between O'Leary and the Mayo County Board.
Yeah, I know, it's madness. He can't be tweeting that kind of stuff. It's like he thinks he's Roman Abramovich of Mayo football or something here as the owner. Like, it's crazy. We're going to have Damien. We're going to have David Brady, between 8 and 9. We recorded this chat earlier on. He's brilliant. He's just great. DB, because he's on Lake Regale, the new series of Lake Regale, and so we said, well, come on in and talk to us about your life and times, and he's just fantastic, as you might expect. I should tell you as well, this Saturday we have a roadshow at the Aviva Stadium with thanks to Pepsi Max, proud partner of the UEFA Champions League. Stilian Petrov, Jason McAteer, Brian Kerr, Stephanie Roach, David Myler, and the Champions League trophy there as well. If you want to go along to the Aviva Stadium for that show, offtheball.com/events, all with thanks to Pepsi Max. Maximum taste, no sugar, # for the love of it. Back in 1 second, we'll bring you more information on Ireland, Italy, Six Nations now. It seems not happening, and Damien will preview Chelsea Bayern as well.
Off the Ball on Newstalk. Moncrief.
Just briefly going back to chess, somebody's texted in to say, I was a manager in a hotel once and I threw a whole chess club out of the lobby because I can't stand chestnuts boasting in an open foyer. Let's move on to our first wine of the day. Glad you enjoyed that, Jean. Esther has her head in her hands.
Moncrief.
With the all-new Dacia Duster.
Weekdays from 2 p.m. on Newstalk.
Have a great evening with itsforwomen.ie. Great value car insurance on the web, on demand, on the go. Itsforwomen.ie. It's always on hand. It's always online.
Cybersecurity and fraud are now among the biggest threats facing Irish business, with more than 60% of companies reporting falling victim to cybercrime. On March the 11th, the International Fraud Prevention Conference 2020 takes place in Croke Park in Dublin. Some of the world's top cybersecurity and anti-fraud experts will be in one place to provide solutions and advice that will save you money. Whether you are a large corporation, financial service provider, or small business, the International Fraud Prevention Conference 2020 is a must. Book now at internationalfraudprevention.com.
There's a gaggle of monsters you'll see around town, in every colour from bright pink to brown. And just like us, they have hopes, dreams and wishes. A new car, new windows, a holiday diving with fishes. They know just where to go for their dreams to come true. The local credit union who can help you out too. For all of your dreams that are big, small or strange, we've got you covered with our Monster Loan range. Monster Loans from the Credit Union. Imagine more. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. If you do not meet the repayments on your loan, your account will go into arrears. This may affect your credit rating, which may limit your ability to access credit in the future. Credit unions in the Republic of Ireland are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Not all of life's sudden challenges come with an early warning system, but some do. If esophageal cancer is detected early, it's much easier to fight. Difficulty swallowing, persistent acid indigestion, heartburn, and reflux can all be indicators. So if you're experiencing these symptoms, visit your doctor immediately. Support the Esophageal Cancer Fund's Street Volunteers this Lollipop Day, the 28th and 29th of February. Find out about donating and detecting at ocf.ie. And check in regularly with your body's early warning system.
Off the Ball. This is Newstalk.
OK, you're welcome back. Delighted to say, do we have him yet? No, we don't. We'll be joined in a moment by the Minister for Health, Simon Harris. We've just got word he'll take a call, so we'll bring you all the very latest from him in just one moment. If you're tuning in, it seems the government will be recommending that the Ireland-Italy Six Nations game does not go ahead. This is due to ongoing fears over the coronavirus. Simon Harris was speaking about an hour ago now, so this is all just breaking. Has said it was the very clear view of the National Public Health Emergency team that the game should not go ahead, and he said the department will be contacting the IRFU to convey this ahead of the game. Was scheduled for the 7th of March. The expectation was that 5,000 Italian fans were expected to travel to Dublin, and the IRFU said it would be guided by the Irish government's wishes. I'm told now Simon Harris is with us. You're there, Minister Harris?
I am indeed. Good evening, Joe.
Thanks for joining us. So I know you're talking maybe in the last hour or so. You might just reiterate the point, the clear advice from the National Public Health Emergency team on the Ireland-Italy game.
Yeah, look, I know it'll come as a source of massive disappointment to rugby fans and sports fans in general, but it probably won't come as that great a surprise that with the developments we've seen in Italy in the last number of days and indeed hours, we've now added Northern Italy to the affected regions list for public health purposes. So therefore, in all conscience, you couldn't have a situation whereby you'd be hosting a major rugby game in Dublin on the 7th of March, with an effect encouraging people to travel from an affected region. So sadly, we've had to take the advice that the match should be postponed, and obviously it's a matter for the IRFU now to engage in that regard.
I presume they'll fully go along with the advice. It makes perfect sense. That said, are the IRFU obliged to take that advice? Is that the matter closed now? It's off?
To be very honest, I hope and don't expect we'll get into that space. I'm sure if government needed to, it could. But in fairness to the IRFU, I don't sense any response or reaction like that from them. I mean, I've very much seen their public statements in recent days where they're talking about following government advice, and of course, everybody in relation to sports and sports fans will want to keep everybody safe. So I expect the IRFU will follow government advice, and indeed I've heard them say that publicly. These are not decisions that are taken lightly in any way. But public health obviously does need to trump every other consideration. And the idea that you'd be hosting a game in Ireland where you'd be encouraging other people, indeed two games where you'd be encouraging other people to travel from an affected region would just not make sense from a public health point of view.
Okay, so that will also apply to the under-20s game against Italy and the women's game that weekend?
Yes, it will.
Okay. So, I know there would have been generally going on previous games, maybe 5,000 Italian fans expected to travel to Dublin, and as has been made very clear over the last 24 hours or so, several regions of Italy badly affected, over 200 people diagnosed, so 5,000 Italians rocking up to Dublin mightn't be the best idea. Was there any possibility of playing the game behind closed doors, or somehow getting in touch with the Italian Rugby Federation and saying, well, can we somehow get in touch with the 5,000 fans planning on coming and say this is, unfortunately not going to be possible, and in effect play the game in front of just the Irish fans? Was that contemplated? Is that possible?
So I suppose all of those are matters for the IRFU. I mean, the only space I should be in as health minister as opposed to sports minister is the public health space. So the idea of all the people, as you rightly say, travelling and being encouraged to travel from an affected region not being sensible. Of course, it's up to the IRFU to decide how best to deal with this. Indeed, if they wish to come up with alternative arrangements, of course, these are matters we'll engage constructively with the IRFU on. But I mean, I should point out, for in general, this is not the first time we've seen a very significant event globally have an impact on sport in Ireland. When we were hosting the Special Olympics here in our own country, we had a very significant outbreak of SARS, and you'll probably remember there were huge restrictions put on visitor activity and where the various teams could go and the likes as well. So sadly, this does happen from time to time, but I don't think anybody would thank the Irish authorities if it ignored what is clear public health advice. To ensure a game could be played. No,
absolutely. Look, sport is sport. People's health is absolutely the priority here. And where are we generally in terms of flights in and out of Italy, away from sport at the moment?
Yeah, so there is not, and I mean, I suppose this is an interesting point and an important point. I mean, there is not a travel ban in place. So we all live in the European Union. There's free movement of people across the Union. It's something people value very much. But what is happening with individual countries is they're obviously putting in travel advisories for their members. So we're now advising people in Ireland not to make any unnecessary travel to the affected regions, which now includes Northern Italy. It also includes places like Singapore, South Korea, Hong Kong, Iran, and China, of course, as well. And obviously the Italians are taking their own measures in terms of providing advice to their citizens in relation to travel. So whilst there's not a travel ban in place and we're not stopping flights coming in, obviously citizens are being sensible in terms of listening to their own Department of Foreign Affairs. I mean, nobody wants to get sick and nobody wants to spread a virus. This is a very difficult thing to stop. Unfortunately, we're seeing an awful lot of it now emerging in clusters in Europe, particularly in Italy. And I think there's a responsibility on all of us as citizens, just I suppose, to use common sense here and to follow the advice of our own Department of Foreign Affairs. So you'll see Italy has issued advice to its own citizens in terms of travel, and we're issuing advice to ours along a similar line. And are travel bans likely? I think travel bans will always be a very last resort in the European Union. I mean, it's built very much on the principle of free movement. But I think what you are likely to see is travel advisories where you will be advised not to travel to certain regions. So that has become kind of widely accepted at this stage in relation to mainland China for the last number of weeks, not just in Ireland but right across the European Union. I suppose the steps we've taken today and the steps I expect to be taken at a European level in the coming hours will be to expand the list of affected regions well beyond China. So I think a legal ban is unlikely. But what's much more likely is that citizens will be advised against travel. And look, all of the experience tends to show when you advise your citizens against travelling to an area in their own interest, the interest of their own health and public health, people usually abide by that.
Okay, listen, I know you're a busy man. Just a final broad point. Any experts I hear on the radio of late are of the opinion that we will see cases in Ireland. There's a certain inevitability about that. The hope is that they can be treated and kept in isolation. This is a fast-moving story. What are we anticipating from an Irish point of view over the next week, 10 days?
Yeah, look, I think you're entirely right. I mean, if we were having this conversation about a week ago, I would have been telling you that 99% of cases of this virus had so far been in China. The situation now is that 97% of cases have now been in China. So the overwhelming amount is now in China and remains in China. But the advice from the European disease centres has now changed. And they're now basically saying that there's a high likelihood that you will see clusters in the European Union. And yes, it's highly likely we will see a case in Ireland in the coming days or weeks. And that doesn't mean the measures we've taken or the measures the European Union have taken have failed. Containment is about trying to reduce the number of cases and reduce the likelihood of cases rather than actually being able to stop them all. So I would not be in any way surprised, nor would our health authorities, if there were cases, and indeed that they've been preparing for that reality since January. It is important to say, because I'm conscious that people are hearing an awful lot of information here. I mean, the symptoms of this are common cold and flu-like symptoms, so fevers and the likes. If people are looking for information, they should go to hse.ie, where there's quite a lot of information outlined there. And look, it is also important to say that the mortality rate is around 2%. So whilst it's obviously very sad and devastating when people die of this condition, the mortality rate is about 2%. So from a public health point of view, it's just important to get those facts out as well.
Okay. Simon Harris, thanks so much. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Joe. Good to chat to you. Bye.
Simon Harris there. Peter O'Reilly of the Sunday Times listening in. Hi, Peter.
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
Very well. So it's 2001 all over again. The Italian match is effectively off there. I mean, Simon Harris did not immediately shoot down the possibility of maybe this match going ahead without the Italian fans, but I suspect, I don't know if you've heard either way, I suspect the IRFU will take the advice in full.
Well, there's no word from the IRFU just yet. As you know, earlier in the day they were trying to allay fears. I was in contact with someone in the Irish camp, and they've heard nothing official yet. That was only a few minutes ago.
Right.
But, you know, matter of public health, Minister of Health, etc., etc. I suppose there would be a bit of lobbying going on for that suggestion that you made there. There might be, according to one travel agent I spoke to, there would be maybe 2,000 Italian fans kind of due over for that game.
Right.
So you could have a situation where they may be asked not to travel and the game might go ahead. But maybe we're clutching at straws there. I don't know.
Yeah. And then obviously England have to go to Rome in the final round of the championship. So this whole thing's suddenly a bit up in the air. I don't suppose we could just say to the Italians, can we both have 5 points and let's maybe just, go with that?
Yeah, that would go down well, I'd imagine, yeah.
I wonder then, in 01 it was September that the foot and mouth games ultimately were played, wasn't it?
Yeah, remember it well. It was the first season of the Celtic League, 01-02. So it was a much different landscape back then, Joe. It's nearly 20 years ago. The Celtic League, which is now the Pro 14, it was a much smaller affair. So there were gaps in the calendar. The professional game was still very, very young at that stage. So Ireland had to get games in Edinburgh, in Cardiff, and then we played England in the final game at home, which was everybody remembers as the day that Ireland spoiled England's Grand Slam. But yeah, slightly more innocent times. And as I say, there were more gaps in the calendar at that stage. We're currently in the middle of the most cluttered season on record because it's a Rugby World Cup season. So the logistics involved in rescheduling a couple of games in the Six Nations it's horrible to think about.
Yeah. And even thinking off the top of my head here, say France go to Murrayfield, win, say France beat Ireland in Paris, Grand Slam done, competition effectively over regardless of what England do in Rome or Ireland do at home to Italy, then there's an argument, is there a pointlessness to these games? And I suspect the answer from the IRFU and the Italian Federation, particularly the IRFU, who will want the gate receipts and maybe broadcasters as well, is the game goes ahead, and then I don't know how much appetite there is for an utterly meaningless Ireland-Italy game in August, September time. So a real mess. It is a real mess, Joe. But that set of circumstances that you outlined there, it's perfectly possible. France would go to Edinburgh as favourites, and they'll be favourites against Ireland as well in the final game. So, but for the integrity of the competition, you've got to try and get those fixtures in. You know, there are enough asterisks beside 2001 as it is. This would be even more complicated if we went down that route. Okay. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us. I suspect you'll be working on a 2001 nostalgia feature in the Sunday Times very soon. So thanks so much, Peter. Appreciate it. Cheers, Joe. Thanks. Cheers. Peter O'Reilly there of the Sunday Times. So there you have it from Simon Harris himself. The firm advice to the IRFU will be game does not go ahead. They may, we don't know, they may entertain some possibility, if the IRFU push for it, of a game with no Italian fans. How enforceable that is, I don't know. So we will. He didn't shoot it down though straight away, did he? Simon Harris, no, he didn't. He said, I'm not the Minister for Sport, but this is the medical advice. He's probably not too sure how realistic an aim it is to prevent the Italian fans from travelling. Peter Riley, interestingly, there saying 2,000 as opposed to 5,000. Maybe there is a way. I'm sure the Six Nations will be saying, if there's any way, we can just get this played.
I don't think it's beyond the realms of
possibility.
Not at all. I think it's quite reasonable. It's only 2,000 come from Italy, and then maybe a couple of thousand from that are already here or coming from.
Well, they're here anyway. Yeah. So we'll see. The IRFU have yet to comment. We'll bring it to you at any stage. Obviously, keep you updated. A short break. Then Damien's going to give us some thoughts on the Champions League tonight.
Off the ball on News Talk.
Nissan is launching their brand new way to drive a brand new car. Nissan Subscribe and Drive is here. Simply choose the car you want, choose 2 or 3 years and pay a monthly subscription fee. No deposit, no fuss, no compromise. Nissan Subscribe and Drive, a brand new